Bree. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to watch my video. I wanted to come on and talk about the October 14th, 2023 solar eclipse, known as the Ring of Fire. I also wanted to compare it with the 2005 solar eclipse that was 18 years ago and give you some other dates that is in the same Soros series as the October 14th, 2023 solar eclipse. I'm also going to be bringing up some charts showing what happened in 05 compared to 2023. And I'm also going to bring up the NASDAQ chart showing you October 14, 2023, as well as the same Soros series that happened back in 2005. Okay, let's begin. Oh, also, I have been learning about some new dwarf planets, specifically Hygeia. And I learned about him because my husband, in his chart, we seen a long time ago that he was going to be getting ill. And we were heading that off. Now, when a personal planet in your natal horoscope, personal planet, your cusp, when it's hit 3 or more times, something is going to pop, whether that's good or bad. I mean, it's just going to come out into your world. So that is just another reason why you need to know what your natal chart consists of and the transits that are hitting it, as well as progressions. With my husband, his Saturn was being hit not only twice, but when I read on Hygeia, and I can't remember where I read about Hygeia, the dwarf planet, at or from. But anyway, I put it in his chart, and not only was there 2 other malefics hitting his natal Saturn, Hygeia was the third. And Hygeia she shows, or the dwarf planet shows, diseases, illnesses, especially diseases. And it also shows that up in event charts, such as the United States chart, NASDAQ chart, Fed chart. So then I read more, and then I went ahead and put up his solar return for the year. And oh my God, it just popped that also. 3 were hitting his Saturn. So what I did before I was even interested in the dwarf planet Hygeia, I knew we needed to be proactive instead of reactive. So I don't know if you've ever heard of life screening, and I'm not affiliated, and unfortunately your insurance companies won't pay for this. I mean, go figure. But anyway, they are in you got to see when they're in your area. So Google life screening. And it's not all that much. I believe it's like $140. And if you want extras add on, you are able to. Anyway, what they do is they do the arteries in your neck. They image them. And then there's like a thing from your stomach. The arteries go down like this. I wish I could remember the exact words. But anyway, then down your legs. And they started focusing more on his stomach area. And they talked amongst themselves. Anyway, they said, hey, you really need to get to the emergency room. And, we're like, ah. But anyway, they said what they found was known as a widowmaker. And I guess this artery or something fills up with blood or something. And when it bursts, hopefully you can get to the emergency room when that happens. But anyway, that was a lifesaver, life screening. I'm not affiliated. If you have any way to do life screening, I would definitely do it. It's worth its weight in gold. And we do plan on getting that, both of us, done every year. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the video. Okay, here we go. I've got the United States chart up, and I have it on the solar eclipse, October 14, 2023. And this is also known as the Ring of Fire. Now, I do have up on my blog predictions for 2023. If you want to go to www.spiritualdesignAstrology.com, you'll be able to read that. Just punch in the search bar 2023 predictions, and it will pop it up. All right, I'm going to get the 2005 chart up here also. But first, we're going to explain what's going on with the Ring of Fire, the October 14, 2023. We have a solar eclipse in the USA 10th house, 21 degrees Libra, 7 minutes, opposite, conjunct the South node in Libra, opposite the North node in Aries. If you've been with me for any length of time, you know that I have said when the North node enters the sign of Taurus, which it was, and it just went into Aries July 17th of 2023, I believe. But when it's in Taurus, you'll notice that the business cycle is slowing down. And then when it jumps into the sign of Aries, it kind of speeds up that slowing down. And when it gets into Pisces, the business cycle is not ideal at all. It is in depression territory in Pisces and in Aquarius. Then when the North node starts to get into Capricorn, it kind of climbs back out of it. Except for one time that is recent to me that I remember, and I'll explain that later. I don't believe it popped back out when we went, when the U.S. had to bail out the banks and so forth. I don't believe it popped back until the North node reached, I believe it was Sagittarius or Scorpio. Don't quote me on either one of those. I'd have to go back through my notes, and right now I'm just not going to. But anyway, right now, the United States, even though they're not going to say, we know we are in some type of a slowdown here. People know something's wrong. No matter what they say when they do I'm not sure the proper term, GDP, or maybe it's the core. I'm not quite sure. But in one of those numbers, they leave out the energy cost, gasoline, oil, and they leave the food cost out. So they don't really know what we're feeling out here. If they do, they aren't really fixing it for us, are they? So anyway, I wanted to get that out there. We all know something's definitely wrong. And the interest rates. Now, you notice that Jupiter is 13 degrees on October 14, 2023. 13 degrees Taurus, retrograde. Now, the Fed did not raise the interest rates this time, or they say that they're going to start scaling them down, or I forgot what they say. You get so many different messages from that organization, but that is because Jupiter is retrograde. I want to say they are going to have to raise those interest rates again. And I know I've talked to you about Neptune in Pisces. When it's hugging that fourth house cusp opposite the midheaven, that is when we see a lot of uprisings. That's when we see a lot of chaos. Also, it is getting closer into the sign of Aries. Now, Neptune in Aries is going to raise those interest rates. We're talking hyperinflation. I kid you not, hyperinflation. So just be ready for all of that. Okay, what I see happening here is some type of a hurricane, because solar eclipses in cardinal signs like Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, they're known to trigger quickly and over just as quickly. However, this one is in the sign of Libra. It's in the 10th house. So it is going to produce its effect, some major effect quickly, and it's going to be before that October 14th, 2023 date there. And I am looking for hurricane, something to do with weather. High winds, hurricane. It's not going to be ideal. Now, it'll begin to show this October 14, 2023 solar eclipse will begin to show its wrath the closer we get, usually between the 4th to the 8th month out. The 4th month is February. The 8th month is June of 20. Somewhere in the middle of that is when this will show its domination, its wrath. And that's why I'm tying it into the April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse. The April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse is known as the Great American Solar Eclipse, just like the one that we had back in August. So August, I think it's 2017 that we had it. I can't remember the exact date. I do apologize. So anyway, this eclipse is going to be a warm-up for the April 8th, 2024. And the April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse, I will be comparing to the year 2006. It'll be in the same series. Okay, so again, you know, eclipses and air signs, they usually bring a lot of violent storms, winds, hurtful to mankind, including some kind of a plague. Now, comparing this to October 3rd, 2005, which I'm going to go ahead and get that chart up. And again, both of them were in the same Saros series as 134.7 South, and both were occurring in the USA 10th house, and both were occurring in the sign of 2023. Okay, I have the United States chart up for October 3rd, 2005. You can see that here. And October 14th, 2023, because again, they're in the same series as 134.7 South. And both occurred in the USA 10th house in the sign of Libra, conjunct the South Node, as well as opposite the North Node in the sign of Aries, which is in the 4th house. And there's the eclipse that happened in October 3rd, 2005. Now, I'm not sure when they bailed out the banks. I know Bush was president, and I know to ward off the inevitable, I believe they raised, whoever could fog a mirror could buy a home. And then that led to another disaster, if I'm correct. And then I believe, I'm not sure what year, Obama did get into office, and to ward it off even more, he did cash for clunkers, and they printed all kinds of money, just print, is what they did. Now, we know today they're still printing. They made law, some type of an act to where they could bail out the banks if they got into trouble. Now, I know this last time they bailed out the depositors, but they can still, if they choose, to bail out banks and so forth. I wish I would have gotten that law up. I did read about it the other day. But so, yes, they are still printing money. We know this. Okay, so what is going to happen? Now, there was some type of a hurricane that happened in 2005. And let me look that up just really quick. Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. Now, I will say that this solar eclipse in 2005, being in an early sign of Libra, that really brings forth the terrible, horrific hurricanes and so forth. Being in a later sign of Libra does bring in the violent, terrible storms and so forth. And I do look again for something in that area to happen, the Ring of Fire, something very destructive to happen. But the bulk of this is going to, again, be around that April 8th, 2024. So that's why I'm tying these in together. But as I've always said, a solar eclipse in a 10th house or the 4th house, especially the 4th house, is very devastating. And I'm talking Mundun's astrology. It's unfortunate for the government as well as leaders, the president. In the 4th house, it does wreak havoc with housing, land, crops, buildings. The 10th house, again, rules president, government, those who have power and authority. I do see the credit and trade suffering, as well as law and authority are weakened. Again, solar eclipses and air signs come with catastrophic storms as well as high winds. Do you know that, and I'm going to go ahead and put this up. Do you know that when Saturn is in that third house in the sign of Pisces, that is when we have our devastating floods. And I did have dates, and I'll try to look for those dates. Maybe I have them here, but yes, I do. Okay, so like through May of 1993, and it did retrograde back into Aquarius, but then May 1993 to April 1996, the flooding in those years, they were record, just wow. Now, the record flood, I believe, was in 1936. Saturn was in the sign of Pisces in the third house, just like Saturn is now in the sign of Pisces. Now, so we're going to get to that here soon, too, on when I do believe that's going to be popping. And when it comes up, when Mars comes around. But we'll get there. Okay, so October 14th, solar eclipse. We will see trouble related to foreign affairs. There'll either be broken relationships changing, and it will bring into question treaties and alliances. Again, when we do see this, as I did state above, it is also because the 10th house is opposite the 4th house. It is going to bring in significant changes with ordinary people, with crops. It's also known to change on the political level, or like national trade will be affected. And I do look for national trade to be affected. Now, I told you I learned about the dwarf planets because of Hygeia. That's Hygeia. Hygeia, again, depending on its aspect, rules illnesses, disease, especially disease. And Hygeia likes cleanliness. So it's a health sign. Also, Haumea, right there, that's Haumea. Haumea rules those that have and those that have not. I will tell you, I learned to get interested in these dwarf planets because of Hygeia. And what helped me learn about Haumea and Make, that's a funny name, and Iris, was the book called Many Plutos. I'm not affiliated. And you can get that on Amazon. And the author's name, I know her first name, I do believe is Sue, but it's called Many Plutos if you want to learn a great deal about these dwarf planets. Very good book. Highly recommended. But, okay, with, again, Haumea, that is the people in the event charts, the government, who, depending on what house it's in, those that have it and those that do not. And right now, Haumea, October 14, 2023, is in the 11th house of the legislation, Congress, town, as well as city councils, and in the sign of Scorpio. So I also have read Haumea in the sign of Scorpio. Haumea rules the sign of Scorpio. We know that Scorpio belongs to that 8th house, so we know that's a money house. And Haumea and Mars conjuncting before the October 14th, 2023, and they will be squaring, and they have already, I believe it was May 22nd, 2022, the first time that Haumea squared Pluto in that 2nd house. And it will come again with both of them squaring Pluto, and we're having another Pluto return, as well as Mars will be coming around to square Hygeia. We know Hygeia is in that 2nd house, the 2nd house of the USA assets and how it makes its money and so forth. It's ill right now. Jupiter retrograde is also squaring Hygeia. So I do look for that stock market to go down considerably. And again, the bulk of this is going to start with that April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse. Okay, I have the Fed, or not the Fed chart, but just so you know, the Fed chart back on October 3rd, 2005 was also, the solar eclipse was also in the 4th house, just like the NASDAQs. Okay, so in 05, October 3rd of 05, that solar eclipse was in Libra in the NASDAQ chart's 4th house, opposite that 10th house. October 14, 2023, it is in the 4th house again, opposite the 10th house. It is conjunct that south node as it was in 05, opposite the north node in Aries. Also, in the NASDAQ chart, we see that Haumea was in the 4th house as well, conjunct the solar eclipse. And Mars was retrograde. Saturn was in the 2nd house. Neptune was in the 8th house. Uranus was in the 9th house. Here, 2023, October 14th, Haumea went into the 5th house. Haumea is also going to be squaring Pluto again. The first time was, in 2022, May. I think I said that in the beginning of the video. So, and then we have Pluto that is back into the sign of Capricorn, was in the sign of Aquarius, in the 7th house. Now, the 7th house, it is the house, it's very important, it's an angular house. It governs like foreign countries, war, disputes, international affairs, all matters, that have to do with a country and another country that has foreign disputes. It also is related to, I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head, divorces, marriages, public natures. So you can see when Haumea comes back around to square Pluto, and we'll talk about that the further that we get into this. And we already know that the 8th house with Hygeia, we already know the 8th house is ill. The 8th house is foreign relations as well. It's the house of not only, death and mortality, but it also has to do with privy council, foreign relations, and things of that nature. So when I look to happen, I do look for that stock market to decline, while understanding that they are throwing money into it. But they really don't have money to throw into it, because Hygeia in the 8th house is actually squaring Jupiter retrograde in that 11th house. So that money is pretty much, the investors and so forth, is pretty much ill right at this point. Also, I see Saturn in the 9th house. Now, the 9th house, it governs like legal matters, law courts, religion, shipping, trade, science, inventions, and so forth. Now, depending on how Saturn's behaving in that house, we know when he first went into the house, we had some major issues with shipping and so forth. Now, Saturn is going to be trining Haumea and Mars, but that's not going to really be doing any good, because we also, again, are coming into Pluto squaring Haumea and Mars, also Hygeia squaring Jupiter, as well as Sirius right there in the 5th house. Sirius is in the sign of Scorpio. She is squaring Hygeia in that 8th house. And the fifth house, we've known it is risk-taking, speculation, places of fun, places of amusement, children. So, and we know that Sirius not only rules agriculture, crops, but also rules women. So that is not going to be very beneficial at all. Risk-taking, speculation is not going to be very beneficial at all. And again, the North Node on October 14, 2023 is 24 Aries. Now the decade of Aries, and where was it here? Is that, I can't even see. Okay, 13. I believe that says 13. And I am talking Mundun's astrology. So do, bear in mind. But in astrology, even horoscopes, regular horoscopes and so forth, there are 3 decades of a solar eclipse. And the first decade is 1 to 10. The second one is 10 to 20, and then 20 to 30 is what that is. And when we have the solar eclipses is mainly what it is for that I'm discussing. But however, I'm just going to go ahead and just go to Aries, 24 Aries. That would be the third decade. And that is destruction of cattle. It's also a lot of sadness and grief to mortals, to people. And we could see the death of some well-known lady as well. So that's what that is. And in October of 05, 13, that would be the second decade. In Aries, that it does corrupt trees. It anything that grows fruit, things of the earth, it corrupts it. It's also, sadness of some king or danger of death to him. If we went back to 05, maybe, Google it, we could find out who that was. It's also prison, and sadness and so forth. And that was in the 10th house of the NASDAQ chart. I should get the United States chart back up. But anyways. Okay, so what I do look for is the NASDAQ chart to go down as well. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to go to the April 8th, 2024. This does tie in. Okay? Oh my gosh. Okay, here we have the Great American Eclipse. Again, the other one was August 21st, 2017. That one, though, was in Soros Series 145. So the April 8, 2024 solar eclipse, we are going to be comparing with the one on March 29th, 2006, because they are in the same Soros Series 139. All right, okay, that's 19. That's in the 4th house. That's going to be just, oh my gosh. Now look, we've got Hygeia hugging that 4th house cusp, as well as Neptune hugging that 4th house cusp. 19 is very critical degree in Aries for this solar eclipse to be in that 4th house. So at the same time, we've got Haumea squaring Pluto. We have Mars and Saturn coming into conjunct. Neptune conjuncting that 4th house cusp opposite the midheaven, as well as Hygeia, illness, right? Disease. So this is the one that I feel is going to just be, oh my goodness. And I am going to be blogging on this again and telling more about it. I just wanted to do a short one here. So I know everybody has been hearing, get ready, get ready. And, I get that. Truly I do. But, and I know you see all kinds of videos. Oh my God, it's here. Oh my God, this is going to blow up. So, just crazy videos out there. But, and I know it's been like a slow burn, Taurus is a slower sign. Now the North Node is in Aries. It's speeding things up. When it gets again into Pisces and Aquarius, that is depression area. We know we are in not quite depression area yet, but we know something's wrong. We know we're in a recession, even though they're not going to call it. We know we are, us the people that are out there working and trying to put food on the table and pay our mortgages. We know. Now, when you have solar eclipses, 19 degrees, and this is really just going to pop, that usually shows right away in fire signs. I mean, it's just boom. And we have, again, and I was going to talk about this later, Mars and Saturn conjuncting, a lot of flooding. We are talking, this solar eclipse is even going to be over the Madrid line, I think that's Missouri. I would say, everybody needs to be prepared. Also, as I said earlier, and let me take myself down off here, because whenever I put myself up here and I try to do this, I'm unable to get what comes out of my mouth, the voice, to match my lips. I've noticed that. That's why I've had to start this over. But I do look for a lot of flooding. Saturn, again, and I told you the dates earlier in the video, when Saturn was in Pisces in that third house. So this is, oh my goodness, it's just going to be crazy. Also, Haumea is in that 11th house. 11th house is your legislators, your, like the House, the Senate, your city councils, your towns, your city councils and your town. And Pluto is in that second house. So how the USA, their assets, their money and so forth, I do look for the stock market to go down considerably. I know they're trying to get a Fed coin to come in. But regarding that Fed coin, I don't know whether they're going to call it. But do know, I know I have read and I have heard, well, they can, bring out the Fed coin. I don't care if the paper dollar and coins go away. They're germy, could cause COVID, all that. But yes, they are going to be able to keep a better watch on every American. And there's those out there that say, that's okay, I don't cheat, they can watch me. That's not the point. The point is they are going to be taxing us to death. It's coming shortly, more so than what now. I mean, it's going to be, oh my God. And they're going to come up with new taxes, such as, I'm just going to use this for an example. You go to a garage sale. And the money that you spend at garage sales, flea markets, just using this as an example, adds up to, say, $25 a year or $100 a year. Watch. They are going to tax you on that. So us, the little people, are the ones that are going to be taxed on that. Even when they switch around their laws for IRS, they're not going to make it to where their buddies do not have loopholes. They're going to leave those loopholes. Again, it's going to be us that's going to be caught between that. So I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're Republican. You need to really think about that. When this digital coin comes out, I don't know if it's called the Fed coin. I don't know what it's going to be called. That's not good. And another thing that's not good, and you might want to read on, I seen a video where somebody was implanting something in their hand or whatever, and they were able to pay with their hand, scanning their hand. And they were just so excited. It was a very young person. That person needs to know what that's going to do to your body, maybe in a short amount of time, but most definitely in the longer amount of time. So that's not good either. Okay, back to what I'm saying. the Great American Eclipse happening in the 4th house, again, 19 degrees is very, very critical. Very critical. Is very critical degree. We also, I believe that's Iris, have Iris conjuncting Mercury 24 degrees in the sign of Aries. Look at, when you see look at that, Aries, all in the 4th, something's coming. So it is going to be very devastating for our agriculture, our crops, housing, us people in general. It is going to be devastating. The major cities that I know of that are in the path that are going to be able to see the eclipse, and I have it on my blog. You will want to go to my blog. I will have things on there that I don't have in this video. But www.spiritualdesignAstrology.com. And the major cities are, well, the moon shadow. It first touches Mexico, then it travels northeast through Mexico, enters the United States at Texas, cuts diagonally all the way across the country to Maine, and then some of Canada. So I'll have this up on my blog, and you can most definitely Google that. So again, eclipses that start in fiery signs bring tremendous heat as well. And at times it's going to be followed by drought. And I do look for that to happen, because when Neptune slips into that sign of Aries, and these malefic planets like Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, Uranus, they can start showing what is potentially going to be coming in anywhere from 5 to 6 degrees out from conjuncting, squaring any other planet. So look for that. And we are going to be taxed. I mean, it's going to be unreal on how much they're going to want to tax us American people. Watch for it. The flea markets and rummage sales, that was just an example. So it has nothing to do with, I don't cheat, why should I care? Just watch, just wait, because they are going to come up with that. But anyway, fiery eclipses, they do cause real sensational public events, as well as murders, disturbances, disputes. So I do again look for the stock market to go down considerably. There will be hurricanes, tornadoes, major flooding. I almost forgot to bring up the March 29th, 06 chart. Okay, so in the United States, or you could Google if you don't remember. I know I have problems remembering them. Even when I just read it, I'm like, and I have to talk it. My mind works faster than I can get things out of my mouth. So that's why I flub up a lot. And I've got to probably be on meds. I probably need to be on meds. So back in March 29th of 06, we had the solar eclipse in Aries, 8 degrees. I can't read the minutes. It's too small. I apologize. Conjunct the North Node in Aries, opposite the South Node. Now notice, Jupiter was retrograde. And is Jupiter retrograde? No. Mercury is on the April 8, 2024. They're in the same series. The April 8, 2024, and so was the March 139.8 North. So, you see Hygeia, March 29, 2006, came over into the second house. The second house, it's assets, it's money, and so forth. That's can tell us why they had to, and then pretty soon it will be opposite Saturn in the 8th house. They printed money. They bailed out the banks. This was coming in. Either it already happened or it came in. I cannot remember when they did that. I'm sorry about that, but you can Google it. But anyway, the North Node was 8 Aries back in March 29, 2006. And Haumea, I thought you were doing something. You're 12. I know you don't want me to sit here and look at all this like this, and I do a 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Well, that would have been, okay. Neptune was also in the 2nd house. And Uranus, 12 degrees Pisces. I did read, and if I could find my notes, I'll have it on my blog. There was a devastating flood. It was, I believe they called it like the mother of all floods when Uranus was in that 3rd house. And now again, we've got Saturn and Mars in Pisces, as well as Neptune in Pisces, 3rd house. So a lot of flooding. A lot of flooding. Oh my gosh. So I do look for, oh, wait a minute. Ceres is in the sign of Capricorn, 17 degrees. Ceres, agriculture, crops, also women, is square that 4th house solar eclipse, 19 degrees. That is just going to be very devastating. So with the October 14th, 2023 solar eclipse, with a lot of it happening between the 4th and the 8th month of 2024, which would be February and June, and with this April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse, 19 degrees inside the sign of Aries, and it's even conjunct Chiron. Chiron at 19 degrees and in Aries is really going to be doing a market correction. So I look for that stock market to take a huge hit. I do look, and if I would bring up the NASDAQ chart, because I've already looked at it, but Saturn and Mars are conjuncting, and with the NASDAQ, don't they usually stop it or halt it or something? So I do look for a lot of that to happen as well, halting of the stock market and so forth. I look for a lot of flooding. I look for hurricanes. Oh my gosh. Earthquakes, all that stuff. 4th house, housing going down, buildings, land probably flooded. Now, it does depend on where you live, the country and everything, where you live. I keep looking up here because I got my microphone up there and I forget I'm right there. The cities, the states, the countries, and so forth, where the most heat's going to be, where the flooding's going to be. But if you look, or you can Google rather, and I did say it before and it will be on my blog, the path that is going to be visible with this solar eclipse are the ones that are going to be hit. So Texas, and I think October 14th, the Ring of Fire, Florida was involved in that one. And in my 2023 predictions, I did put in there an insurance company filing for bankruptcy, something happening with a well-named, huge insurance company. And I put up in my 2023 blog why I thought that. So www.spiritualdesignAstrology.com. And I do know that a lot of the insurance companies have gotten out of some states, but then some went back into the same states. But they might regret that because there's going to be some major wrath coming. And the meat of it, again, will be before the April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse. And that will be the meat of the happenings with the October 23rd, 2023 and April 8th, 2024. So, you really do need to be ready. I can't really see them coming up with to be able to print any more money. Haumea has went into that 11th house of Congress. Cities, town councils, they are going to be short on money. We are going to be majorly taxed as the people. Bank on that. They're going to get very clever on new ways to tax. I use the garage sales and the flea markets just as an example because, I have read, well, they can, get into my bank account. I have nothing to hide. Trust me. When the people, us common people that are struggling already, and we're trying to buy things at discounts like at garage sales or Salvation Army, and that's just an example. We are going to be taxed. I see the cities and towns and so forth kind of having a time getting money because the USA doesn't have it to give. So I don't look for them to be able to continue printing money. I look for that to come to a standstill. It's going to have to stop. So yeah, I do say now's the time, even when I said it back then, when the North Node did get into the sign of Taurus, business cycle slowing down. And oh my goodness. So I'll have a lot more on my blog. I hope that I wasn't too stumbled too much. I haven't been doing a lot of videos, which reminds me, on my blog, spiritualdesignastrology.com, where it says Bree's Answers and Questions, I will be answering, I get emails, and sometimes they're the same questions and sometimes they're not. But that's how I'm going to be doing my Bree's Answers and Questions, off of the emails. I will not ever tell who sent the email. That is very private. Never do I do that. Emails are so secure with my website. It's just, wow, they're secure. Okay, I will have a lot of this on my blog. Please go there and to read it. And please let me know what you thought of this video. When we share things, it's not that, oh my gosh, it makes my video go viral, or no. It's so people can learn. People can learn from other people's ideas, what other people's comments are. That's how we learn. If you ever go to a website that has something that you don't agree with or you do agree with and you comment on it, I'm a person that reads those comments, and there's millions more like me, and it helps a lot. So leave a comment, and if you have a question, shoot me an email and I'll answer it on Bree's Questions and Answers. I've already got a good amount that I need to get busy with. Thank you, and stay safe and healthy.